Thanks so
as we
much.
continue our breaking coverage of the healthcare situation in Washington, John Bruning now joins us. He's the Attorney General of the state of Nebraska and part of the 26-state lawsuit against the healthcare law. Essentially a principal in all of this, got it all rolling. You were inside the Supreme Court, Mr. Attorney General, for these arguments, and you observed what?
Well, the justices were very, very interested. What you saw were dozens of questions. Today's issue, of course, was kind of arcane. It was the Anti-Injunction Act. Most lawyers don't ever think in law school they're going to be talking about the Anti-Injunction Act, and I don't think it's going to hold up the case. Tomorrow's the main event, of course, when we're talking about the mandate. You could see the justices signal some of their thoughts on the mandate, but mostly today it was on this arcane 1867 law.
Well, what did they signal about the individual mandate? What could you read into in today's hour-and-a-half argument?
Well, the thing I think you saw is that they're not going to stall this case because of the Anti-Injunction Act. You know, they certainly could derail the case today. They did schedule 90 minutes today, but it wouldn't make sense for them to do it. Most of the questions seem to indicate we're going to get to tomorrow. It's going to be decided based on the mandate. I'd be shocked if they threw the case out based on today's subject matter, the Anti-Injunction Act. And you could start to see the justices break down just a little bit in terms of liberal and conservative, how they feel about the mandate. I don't think that you're going to see any shockers with the basics of the liberal justices and the conservative justices. It probably comes down, in many of our opinions, to what Justice Kennedy believes about this case.
That could be the swing vote in all of this. A lot of people think that, Justice Kennedy. All right, so your observations are certainly interesting, and let's just say, for the sake of our argument, we weren't in there, you were, that you're right, and you pretty much have it straight for today. So that brings us to tomorrow. I mean, give us a preview of what you think will be the most important part about tomorrow, because it's being billed as kind of the main event in all this, the individual mandate.
Well, I think it's one of the most important cases that this country's heard in a generation. And you can see that by the length of time they've given the overall case, 6 hours over 3 days. But it really defines the limits of constitutional power for Congress. And you started to hear those questions today out of the justices. How broad can congressional power go? As you look at the briefs, can Congress force you to eat certain kinds of foods? Can they force you to drive a certain kind of car? All that is going to be hinging on what this court decides about the mandate. So it's really a very critical concept. I think one of the most important things this court has heard in a generation.
All right.
Attorney General John Bruning, thank you so much. And again, insight into today and a preview of what is to come for this country. Thank you so much again.